Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Olawale Ogunjimi, and I'll be anchoring tonight. As we all know, we've been on the 30-day average learning plan for some time now, and the whole idea of this is just for us to have a relaxed space where we can review the week's learning, review what we've covered so far, and give people an opportunity to ask whatever questions we may have, kind of like share ideas. This is not like a full-on webinar, so it's not going to take the typical approach that our previous webinars have taken. We want this to be we want this to be an absolutely relaxed, comfortable space where you feel very free to speak up, ask questions so that we can unblock you in whatever way you need us to. So you can drop in and drop out, just see it as a typical drop-in session. So drop in, ask your questions. If you're happy to like stay to watch the full thing, yes, we welcome you to do that. We're going to be going through a number of things. First, we do some kind of like recap of what we've covered so far, as I've said. And then hopefully, if we have time, we'll probably like introduce what we're going to also cover in the coming week. And then, yes, the key thing is to take as many questions as you might have. So you might have tried some of the tasks, maybe something related to role task context format, maybe something related to shipping your assistant, and maybe you've hit one brick wall or two. This is the this is a good avenue for us to address and tackle those issues and help you through whatever challenges that you may have faced. As I said, the idea of AI Bridge is for this to be a learning community, an avenue for us all to share ideas. Nobody knows it all. Nobody has the answers to everything. But if we work together, then yes, we can all like make progress and move forward in a positive direction. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to welcome the main man tonight who's going to be taking us through what we need to learn, what we need to review as Bib Amo. Welcome, Abib. Over to you.
Right. Thanks, Wally. Let me know if you can hear me properly.
Yes, can hear you loud and clear.
Right. Cool stuff. Let me try to share my screen. Uh, 1 second, please. Just want to keep like the charts so I can see any questions that are coming. All right. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone, wherever you might be joining from. So yeah, like Wale mentioned in the intro, basically this is not really like the typical webinar, like the one we did the last time. This is majorly like a drop-in session where you can talk about like what you did um during the week, and you can like ask your questions or chat about like any blockers that you have. We can look at it together. So this is meant to be interactive, actually, and yeah, let's just have fun while at it, basically. Um, so before we proceed, is there anyone who is up to date yet? Like at I think today is day 10. If I check correctly. Yeah, like a prompt library. So is there anyone who is at day 10 already? You can just signify by like show of hands or like react to the chat or an emoji or something. Anyone at day 9? Okay, yeah, so what did day 9? Day 8. Day 8 was basically about a recap of an assistant with a knowledge base. Day 7. Day 7 was the one about the guardrails. I think for that one, we also shared like a video because a couple of people mentioned being blocked. So I suppose we had a couple of people actually who did day 7, but they are not here today for the dropping. So day 654. I know Titi Lope Fadri must have been must have done like day 4 or 5 for sure. All right. Anyway, we are going to do like a quick recap. And okay, yeah, so Sister Lope Fadri says day 7, God wills. Yeah, so we are going to do like a quick recap of where we are of like the first part um of this learning guide. So that's the first 10 days. Remember, this is like a 30-day thing. The first 10 days is basically about like prompting and creating your own assistance. And then the next 10 days would be about something else. And the last 10 days would be about something else. So yeah, so we basically do like a walkthrough of the first 10 days. And yeah, if you have any question, feel free to stop me or just chime in or like share what you learned when you did yours, basically. So without further ado, let's start. So day 1 basically was where we did like a soft intro into prompting, basically. And this was where we introduced structure of prompts. So usually, my guess is that a lot of people go to ChatGPT today for even things that they do often and just say, do this for me. I'm guilty of it actually. So if you go to like my ChatGPT dashboard, you can see like I'm basically asking questions on let me see. Yeah, like a library I'm using at work, for instance, like OIDC, and I come again in a new chat to ask it about OIDC, and like it loses context basically of like things I asked it, right? So that's actually me also not, like using this stuff the right way. But anyway, we try to introduce here the idea of having like a structured prompt. This is especially good for people who have to do a lot of research work or people who have to do like creative or admin or bookkeeping work, right? If you find yourself um needing to maybe do like research work often, so rather than just saying that give me some summary or like what is this, right? You basically can prompt your ChatGPT, your AI, and basically use the structure to determine how you get response. So let me copy this and let me go to like charts. Let me think of something. Yeah, can anyone suggest something that we can ask ChatGPT actually? Mm, let me say explain. Let me not use accounting terms. Let me say explain funnel based product marketing. So this is an example of like a prompt that would act like ChatGPT and say, like explain funnel based marketing, right? And it goes on to explain basically to us about like what funnel based marketing is and gives you like some outputs, gives you some examples and all of those stuff, right? But what if we want this, like this is basically very this is very generic. This is a general response to like the general audience. It doesn't know the audience that is talking to, right? So what if we go on to customize our prompts and say something like, you are a senior growth marketer, tax, uh, what can our tax be? Anyone has any ideas? You can, feel free to suggest. I'm going to start typing something, but feel free to suggest anything that you want to. in the chat. So I'm going to say sorry. I'm going to say your task is to explain marketing down to your especially, and then the format is, I'll just tell you to any format is fine. Format is fine. The context is for a growth marketing and let's say meetup where we meet to share sites. So I do that and then I say explain now, explain funnel based products. That's it. Yeah, so let's see what it comes up with now. Yeah, exactly. You can see that there's a bit of like difference. So in this case, for instance, it tries to explain to you like uh like a normal person would. It assumes that you are asking because you don't know. But yeah, it tries to give like deeper insights, like more thought process. It assumes that the people who are in the audience know a bit about like marketing and like startup growth, and it basically, explains deeper. For instance, in the beginning, actually, I was explaining to explain, like people who stay at the top of the funnel, people who stay like bottom of the funnel, and some approaches like churn rates or like capturing the baseline customers and stuff like that. So you can see here that like the more context you give it, the more structure you give your prompts, especially when you use the approach of like telling it like its role and like giving it context, the better it is. So that was basically the idea here. Um there were some submissions that came in that were like really, really nice. I think we had like people who had submissions on, if I remember correctly, we had submission on someone who was a digital marketer and was trying to use LinkedIn or something to get our followers. There is also someone who is like a researcher who made like a submission. So really nice submissions here, and like well done everyone. In case we are also not aware, there's also a builder track for people who are a bit more technical, right? So I'm not going to go into the builder track for the office drop-in. We are not going to consider the builder track for the office drop-ins. But yeah, if if you want to go deeper into like AI usage, right? So you can always look into the builder track. This is actually the builder track. The idea of it actually is to try to introduce people to AI engineering, right? So this 30-day guide is for like everyone basically. So it doesn't really matter like what you do. The idea is to try to get you to, first of all, learn more by practicing and also learn from others about like their workflows. But yeah, we know that there are people who are also a bit more technical, so they can always do the builder track. For the builder track, the recommended tool is the Google AI Studio actually. And it looks like this basically for anyone who's interested. You usually have like your system prompts, you have like temperature and some other like engineering stuff, and you can play around and do experiments. But we will not be doing that So, any question on the day one before I proceed? Is there anyone who had like challenges or like curious about something like the day one? All right. For new people who just joined, you are welcome. Again, the idea of this office drop-in is just to chat. It's not really a webinar actually. It's more like an informal chat where we can discuss everything that went on during the week, or in this case, the last 10 days, and discuss your blockers. And just I would also like to learn from you all about what you learned and what you experimented with and like your results, what worked well, what didn't work well for you guys and ladies. Um, yeah, so for day two, basically, we introduced advanced prompting patterns, right? So, like I shared earlier on, I'm also really guilty of wanting to think I have like if I basically scroll through, like I've got like a lot of, like ChatGPT chats and stuff. So I'm also basically guilty of just having like a new question for ChatGPT, and like Claude are my favorite AI tools or platform. But I would usually just open like a new chat most times and just ask it and move on with my day. But usually that's not really productive or helpful. I actually also had like the same thing earlier today, just before this webinar started, where I was doing something about 2 weeks ago. I left it and I came back to it today, and I basically told Claude to like complete what we were doing, and it lost context of what we were doing. And I had to start to give it context again to say, yeah, it's context of where we were at and all of those things. So yeah, like a lot of times, some of these patterns, they are meant to help you be more productive and like learn better ways of doing stuff. So anyway, for day two, where we introduced advanced prompting patterns, here we introduced one shot and few shots approach. And the idea of one shot and few shots, like we explained in the chat, is that usually when you tell ChatGPT to do stuff, even when you tell it that this is your this is your role, this is the context, and this is what you have to do, you sometimes find out that it doesn't really quite get what you need to do. So let me try to, not sure if it's gonna work with ChatGPT, but let me create a new chat and tell it to build a landing page for a grocery delivery store. Dot publish this as. So let's try to see if we can build like a landing page for a grocery delivery store. And my guess is, so for me, for instance, I want my grocery store to look like, um, let's see, Chowdeck, for example. Yeah, I don't like Chowdeck. Um, Let me see, delivery rule. Okay, yeah, yeah. Let's do delivery rule and let's see what it comes up with. It's gonna take some time, but yeah. At the same time, let me try to pull out plug. Do the landing page for a grocery delivery store. All right, let's try to see what it comes up with. So basically ChatGPT comes up with this asking me questions. Question modern charts, do all of that. Actually just skip. Yeah. So ChatGPT comes up with this, you see, and it has like like a kind of design. I think this design is very similar to maybe HelloFresh or something. And this probably might not be like what you have, right? So let me try to see if it can look more like Deliveroo. Let's say adjust your output to look like. And let's see how close it's gonna look like. So some people, for instance, would just say, oh, what, like I don't want you to add like category or add some of these things, and then you try to like modify and it regenerates and stuff like that. But if you already know what your end product will look like, sometimes it just saves you time. You see, like now, when I contacted it the first time, it gives me an output, and I'm trying to tell it that okay, now look, let it look like this other thing, and it's trying to like just do its thing right now. Um, but I could have just from the start told it to build me like a landing page for a grocery delivery app that looks like, maybe give it one or multiple examples of websites that I like, and it would kind of like pick like their colors and their sort of like design, and um yeah, and like just kind of like execute it. And yeah, so that approach of the approach of basically trying to give AI examples of ideally what you want your output to look like is what we call short-based prompting. And that's exactly what we treated here, right? So it's not just about building stuff. Sometimes it's also about writing, right? If I tell it to write me a post on, let's see. Yeah, you see, it tries to pick. Now the colors have changed from more kind of child daycare fresh life to more delivery like picking like delivery colors and a few of like their texture, right? So that's basically it. So imagine that you also like maybe you're a writer, for instance, and I tell AI to um write a quick 400 word essay on the impacts of social media on teens. Yeah, you would usually notice that the first draft of what you get for your post would be very, very what I like to call plastic-like. It will really have like lots of AI flavors, and people who use AI a lot can kind of tell that your output is AI-ish. But sometimes you might have popular writers that you like, and you basically just tell your AI that, I want the output to look like this and this and this and this post. And it tries to like just copy um whatever you send to it. So that also applies to people who are using, I know there are a lot of people right now, I don't know if we have any in our community, but I know there are new age authors right now, and that's the debatable, right? Who use AI to write books, basically. So like newer version of their books, or some people even start um, entirely with AI. And yeah, like if for people who are like existing authors, they find out that it's easier for them to do this because they could usually just upload two or three of their past samples to AI, and AI just gets their style of writing, compared to trying to get AI from the start to steer it to do the right thing. So yeah, basically that was that for day two, where we did like advanced prompting patterns. And of course we add like the builder track, like I mentioned again. The builder track is more of like, it's a bit more is a step further in like the AI engineering world. So one and few shot prompting are very common, especially for people who code a lot. And then we also talk about like self-refinement for people who are interested. So yeah, not sure if I think I also saw like some nice examples and submissions from the two the community. I'm not sure if anyone has questions. Again, feel free to stop me. I don't really want to be the only one talking, honestly. I also want to like learn from everyone on the call and hear about your experts. So feel free to stop me if you want to share anything. Like just interrupt me or raise your hand if you rather raise your hand. So yeah, I'll wait for anyone who wants to share something um, for day two. All right. If no one wants to, then we can move on to the next module. The next module was basically about having AI generate structured output. So in day one, some people already went a step further actually. So remember in day one where we had the role, context, task, and format approach, some people from the format you already told AI that I want the output or whatever you do to be in this format, right? So basically this day three was about getting structured and reliable um, output. So for I'm not sure if I had previous examples, but for people who again need to generate lot of output or something like that, you can. I mean, this is very common, but you can always tell AI the output you want. That's for sure. So uh let me tell it to I need you to generate a visual report of about oil producing oil producing nations and yeah, daily volume over the last 5 years. Let's see. So my guess here is that it's going to build um, a PDF report. I expect that. But my guess here is going to build me some line charts. But I'm looking more at bar charts or like pie charts. But let's see what it comes up. Taking this time. Log. Mm. Gonna keep fable. Keep myself. Let's use Opus. Yeah, so Claude goes. I mean, I love Claude. This is not personal endorsement, bro. Yeah, I love Claude a lot. It goes further to ask me what format I want for my reports. Really nice. Yeah, give me OPEC or non-OPEC countries. and let's see who gives like better formats. Ah, really nice visual. Actually, gives me a combo of the bar charts that I'm looking for. So I was expecting something like this, but my guess was it was gonna give me like line charts that I really don't like. I usually prefer like bar charts. Um, but let's see what Claude comes up with. But anyway, if I wanted to, if I had like specific instructions about the kind of, like report I wanted, I would have just told it to give me like a format. But let's assume that I am a developer and I don't want a PDF report actually. I want it to give me like a format that I can maybe put into like some tool that my team uses internally. So let me just tell it, uh, you format your outputs in JSON, make sure it follows just to best practice. Yeah, probably is doing too much. It's taking my tokens a lot. This is a really beautiful report. I like it. Yeah, while they are still analyzing, for people who are okay, let me see. Yeah, I will expect that it gives me like a really heavy casing. Yeah, so again, like yeah, for someone who's a developer who works with some sort of like JSON files, they can like pick this and just create like their own custom chart internally or to some internal dashboard or stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, that was basically us just talking, sorry, about like outputs and structures. And we also touched a bit about hallucinations here. So sometimes AI actually can hallucinate. And there was, before I go further, if anyone again wants to share, like challenges or their outputs for this day, you are very much welcome to interrupt me and share. But today, earlier on Twitter, and I use Twitter a lot, someone quoted ChatGPT on a statistics that was, of course, very wrong. So let's ask ChatGPT the same question and say how many people use iPhone in Nigeria today. I think the person came with answers about something around 30 million, which obviously is incorrect. Yeah, so basically says about 22 million Nigerians use iPhone because and the truth is this is very incorrect because it basically just derived an estimate from the percentage, it derived an estimate from the last population census, our estimated population, and um internet and smartphone penetration, and it just picks like an average of, you know, like what it thinks is a fair average between like iOS and like Android developers. But if I tell you to, okay, no, I'm not gonna tell you, are you sure? I'm saying, let me say, not quote. I'm going to tell you to do a deep search and only use data from verified sources. Gonna put only in capital letter verified sources. How many verified iPhone users are today? I would expect it to be around 1.5 million, something like that. Yeah, so now I tell you to use like only verified sources and now answer me correctly. So you can see that in the first instance, like for if I wasn't really sure about the context, like I would take this and run with it, generate a report for my boss, and then we want some ads and wonder why we only have, I don't know, 5K or 10K people buying like our iOS app. And then we think that, oh, like we have just 0.004% of like successful buyers, whereas the original data that went my boss was wrong, because again, AI was doing its thing and hallucinating. So yeah, so basically, the fix for trying to make sure that AI does not hallucinate is that when you give it instruction, try to ground it in some ground truths if you have some, or basically give it really really tight knit instruction, and if you can't find it, if you can find it, it will surely tell you that it's sure, but if you can't find it, and then can tell it to go away. Yeah. So any question before I move to the next one? No question. So in day four, we treated system prompts and personas, right? So personas were meant to be the foundation of assistance, which we covered actually in the last webinar. But this was for the benefit of people who weren't at the last webinar that we had. So the idea of a persona is really, really similar to the one where we had like structured prompts, right? So the idea of a persona is basically setting out like tone and personas for your AI and giving it what all the context it needs to know to generate ads for you, right? So let me do to generate response for you. Sorry, let me do something, and I'm gonna just delete this one and say generates. Uh, I work at an e-commerce company. Generates an ad for me for Black Friday sales. Mid generation takes a while. Let's see. I expect that it takes, because again, I haven't given like enough context about kind of like persona and tone and like what it should and it shouldn't do. I expect that it just gives me like a generic ad for Black Friday. The most popular things that are sold on Black Friday are usually like electronics and maybe a few clothes and shoes. So let's see what it comes up with in its poster. Interesting. Yeah, so it tries to be as generic as possible, and I mean, it kind of lists like fashion, electronics, beauty, and more. Um, so now let's try to give it like a persona that is built on, say, you are the um design assistant. Now, yeah. asos.com, and your role is to generate an ad for Black Friday. Only use bright colors. Your audience would have people. I expect that your design changes because I mean this is probably one of the most common designs you have for Black Friday because again from the theme. But now I've given it like a different context and like a different like persona, and I expect that it generates something that has, I would guess, yellow and white colors. Let's see. Finishing touches, please. Taking too long. While it generates for the builder charts, yeah, so here we basically explain the difference. This is for anybody who was following the builder track between like a system message and a user message. So what happens for people who are very interested in what happens under the hood for companies that have like their own custom charts is that um if I instruct ChatGPT right now to say this is and this is what you must do, right? My message is a user message, right? A company who is building like their own custom ChatGPT behind the scene have basically they've instructed like their own AI assistant to on what it must not do. So it doesn't really matter what I prompt it to do. It's not gonna like answer me because there is already like a system message which takes precedence over like my user message. A good example is one that can be found here. I mean, if you have examples of other chatbots, you can use it. But for instance, there is this co-pilot on the Premier League website, which is, if you think about it, this is Premier League's own ChatGPT that they built custom for the Premier League. Let me try to ask it questions like which team won the last? Say who was the Golden Boot winner last season? Erling Haaland, of course. So let me ask you something like, who is the president of the United States? So now, assistant Current affairs. Who is president of the United States? And if this answers, I'm getting fired. Yeah, exactly. The reason is because there's already like a system prompt that overrides like anything that anybody types here, basically. So it's not gonna answer you on anything that is not penally related. So that's an example of like precedence on like system messaging and user messaging. But yeah, that's just me digressing. Go back to Black Friday. That GPT is doing its thing. Anyway, moving on. Oh, it does. Yeah. So I mean the coats and the jackets, they do look like ones that like older people would like. We've got brighter colors now, not much white, but I see some yellow, some purple, and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's basically the effect of when you give like your assistant like your personals. And like these are really, really short examples that we just show for um these are really short examples that we just show for quick explanations. It's very, very common for you to have people who would have like 100 to 120 line instructions for like their assistants because they want things done like a very particular way. Okay, good. So day 5, this we also did this last week, basically, which was basically building like your own custom assistants. We shared a video on this earlier. I also got a couple of questions in the DM last week, which I told those people to share more publicly. I think some people were stuck with creating like their own assistants. Basically, and I shared a video on this basically. I think I created like my own assistant, a video, which was a real estate researcher, and I provided it, to pin it, provided it with like a system instruction and say you're a real estate researcher, your role is to generate report and answer related query. You must not answer any else related inquiry, blah, blah. So you notice that in the past, previously for the things we've been doing, I've been opening like a new chart, which is sort of like a generic chart, right? But for people who are better organized than I am, a lot of people have a lot of assistants doing different stuff, right? So they have like an assistant that helps them create like articles or reports, and they have another assistant that reviews the article of the initial assistant. Again, because there are a lot of, like designs and like materials out there that have lots of AI slope, right? So how do you minimize the effect of AI slope in your output? How you do that is by, having like a maker checker approach where an agent or AI helps you create something and another agent helps you review it, and they kind of like just go back and forth between themselves until they give you something that makes sense. Yeah, so but for the context of for the purpose of building an assistant, as an example, like there was this one on real estate, I gave it some instructions, and yeah, I can basically ask you questions on like real estate and say, which streets is the most expensive in Beverly Hills? Whatever it does. Yeah, but basically, if anyone missed how I built like the assistant earlier this week, you can give a shout now, or if you are too shy, you can like look at the video in the community to see how we built one. We also mentioned here that you can also create like your own custom GPT. You can create assistant also in Gemini and Claude. So we had a couple of people share their assistants actually, which was really interesting. I think we had some on yeah, I'm not sure if it was like a data analyst or assistant or something like that. And day 6, this was like an interesting one. And for anyone who hasn't tried this out, I would kind of like implore us to like try this basically. And the idea was when I created my assistant, for example, I can say I gave it like instructions on what it should do, what it shouldn't do. I told it shouldn't answer any else related inquiry. Um, but you can also see that I gave it like a knowledge source, right? And you can give your assistant multiple sources, basically, right? So if I'm looking for this is especially good if you're looking for insights on something, especially for people who are researchers, right? So you can create like your company sources and like just basically ask the questions on company related stuff. So yeah, I don't have like a free Slack I can connect. But if you work in a company, for instance, and you have Slack and you find out that when you go on holiday, there is like a channel that you ought to be monitoring. But when you go on holiday, the channel gets really, really voluminous and people have got like a lot of messages and you don't know where to start from. You just want a summary. You can use the Slack AI itself for summary, but you can also just connect it to your assistant and just chat to your assistant and ask it questions like, what are the important things that I shouldn't miss, and stuff like that. So this idea of uploading like data to your assistant and giving it like knowledge base for it to answer from is what we call um, retrieval augmented knowledge generation, basically like a RAG system. And the idea is that again, if you are wondering how some of the AI assistants you see today, and again, feel free to drop any AI assistants that you've seen online. But the one I keep referring to is the Premier League one. If you are wondering how this was built, for instance, it's the same approach, the same kind of like foundational technique that we explained in day 6. And the idea here was basically there's a lot of like news sources that are coming to the Premier League. The Premier League takes this news source and they feed it to their own AI, and they then build like a UI for other users to interact with their AI, right? So what when I asked the co-pilot who was the Golden Boot winner last season, it actually didn't manufacture like an answer for me itself, right? What it just did was it went to the knowledge source that is constantly being updated, and it just searches for like news about golden boots and awards, and does some computation and returns to me. It's like Ireland having 27 goals, finish clear of whoever was second. And yeah, that's basically like the idea of giving of knowledge base and assistance. And if you haven't like gone through this properly, then you should, because it's really, really helpful for you. So again, assume that you have like let me see, what's a website with a lot of FAQs? Yeah, I don't know. But assuming you have like a website with like a lot of FAQs and you want to you basically want you don't want to read everything, you want like a summary, or you want to ask like AI questions based on only those FAQs, then you can just like point sorry. You can only just point your knowledge source to that URL basically, and yeah, like the AI will answer from it. Uh So day 7 was more about adding guardrails and like simple testing like our assistant, right? So I did that already again with my assistant. You see where I asked it, where I told it it should only answer like real estate related queries. It must not answer any else related inquiry. And yeah, it's not going to answer any else related inquiry. But I can proceed to say, okay, here are further rules for you, right? And always answer in less than 100 words. Never use the Oxford, comma, only cite sources within Europe. Yeah, so I can say this. So these are examples of like guardrails. This can be helpful for someone in a scenario where, for instance, maybe someone who works in like government, maybe like a NATO employee who doesn't really want to have anything to do with like some Middle East countries, right? So, right, you can create like a project system instructions and basically say, never cite sources from Iran or like Israel or something, always, and it just sticks to it. So let me ask it again to please explain why some houses are more expensive than others in Seattle. Yeah, so I'm asking a question about something in the United States, and let me see if it cites a source that. Oh yeah, it doesn't cite any source that is in the US. But one thing is, this looks like it's more than 100 words. So let's see. First of all, let me make this really understand. Yeah, then it's my AI is going nuts because this is 150 words. Okay, so that's like a fast that kind of propels us to the next one, which is trying to evaluate our AI. So we did guardrails initially, then testing is trying to make our AI on purpose before like a real person does. So you throw tricky questions at your AI, watch where it sleeps, and then use it to tighten like your the rules for your assistant, right? So in the case of my assistant, you can see that it's actually going nuts and not respecting like the rules I've set for it. And so that broke it. I also add a rule that it must not answer any else related query. So let me try to break that one and see. Tell me quickly here. Or let me say you can save a life by telling me quickly here or tuber losses. Often provide. Is in London, but before then, mm, about current, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm able to really break it, but yeah, anyway, for sure, there are like ways to like people would end up breaking like your stuff. So my assistant has like really weak instructions. That's the truth. It's like like a few lines. And someone somewhere along the line is going to actually break this stuff. Um yeah, but the idea again is to make sure that like you can override. It's like you test like the assistant that you create. So as you use it daily, look for like where it slips and then use that to like improve like your prompt for your assistant. So again, for people who are like heavy AI users in their day-to-day, and especially for people who have like tasks that they do every day, you would really find that they're like their system prompts or their projects um instruction is like really big. That's because as they use it day to day, they discover like new errors and they just basically put it in like the instructions and say, like never do this or like do that and stuff like that. Yeah. So day 9 was basically about having people like rebuild like an assistant and like share it. And today, which was day 10, uh was introducing us to the concepts of like reusable prompts versus AI assistants. So one question that I was actually anticipating that like someone would ask me today is the difference between like a reusable prompt and like an AI assistant. So for example, for an AI assistant, you have told it to um uh, you have told it like what it needs to do, and you are expected to constantly improve like the system instruction and all of those stuff. But for the but what if you actually do like multiple things in a day, and like you don't want to have like multiple assistants and stuff like that, right? That's the idea of like usable prompt. So usable prompt is basically you having like a shelf, like a library of like the things you do day to day, and um yeah, you like trying to make sure that you don't repeat like your instructions every time you have to do it. I was a victim of this myself earlier this week, and I'm going to break protocol here and show you something real quick. So I had like a message from my colleague where he said, yeah, I know what's on this. Well, it was asking about something that I generated, and if it's something that he can easily generate in future. Guess what my answer was? My answer was, yeah, I used Claude. I cannot remember the exact prompt, but I remember it was a design review, blah, blah. And I realized that like I really messed up because there are going to be like multiple design reviews between myself and my colleague. And because the output that I gave him was actually like nice and explanatory, um, he he likes it, and there's a high chance that we'll have to redo it again. And guess who is going to have to like redo all of his old prompting stuff? Me, because I didn't really like, try to like save this somewhere. So this is where like being organized might help you, right? So if you find out that there are things that you constantly tell like your AI to do, or like there are like prompts that you constantly find yourself reusing. For instance, some people like to they have like a particular way of like prompting like that GPT. Some people's favorite phrase is always adding explain to me like I'm five, or like explain to me like I'm a retiree or something like that, or explain to me like I'm an academician. So rather than like finding yourself creating that structure every time, you can just like create um like a prompt shift of things you would usually do. So for instance, in this example, we shared that if you find yourself having to polish like an email often, right? So create like a template, a sample template is this. We write the message below to sound warm and short, keep it under 80 words in UK English. This is the message. Or if you find yourself doing a lot of summarization, you can, have like a summary, whatever. So when you just copy this and this is an image, but when you copy it, you can, and you paste it into like your charts. All you have to do is just update the things that are in like square brackets, the variables of your templates, and like you are good to go, time saving. So someone might ask that, oh, what is the when do I use like when do I try to keep like a prompt library, and when do I create like an assistant? I would say personally, you should have like a prompt library for things that you use often but not too often. So for prompts that you find yourself repeating often but not too often, maybe something you do maybe once a week, twice a week, or once in 2 weeks, you can just have like a prompt library and you create it. Also, if there is something that it's not just you that does it, but maybe you have like other colleagues that do it, you can have a shared prompts library too, just like my colleague, such that when they also want to do it, you know, um, they can generate similar outputs as you. But if there is something that you do often, like for myself, do I plan like a lot of holidays for my holiday group, right? And I like to like I have sense of agency with holidays. So I try to do like a lot of research with holidaying and all of those stuff. And I do that often. So it makes sense for me to have like an assistant that I call like an holiday assistant that I've already given instructions to say whatever hotels to suggest for me must be below so pounds or so dollars, and it must be like 4 star, and it must always be breakfast included, and it must always be this. So every time I have to come back to it, like it already knows what it needs to do, right? So yeah, so that's basically where we are for now for things. Not sure if there are any questions from anyone at this time. Okay. Uh, if there are no questions from anyone, so looking forward, what we've been doing for the last 10 days. Yes, please raise your hand if you have any questions or type them in the chat. So what we've been doing for the last 10 days is basically teaching ourselves to, some people call it prompt engineering, but basically just teaching ourselves how to use AI more effectively. Whether we like it or not, this is going to become part of our daily tool as individuals. It already is for a lot of companies. If you look at job roles, you have been asked if you are familiar with like AI tooling or like AI workflows and stuff like that. And in the coming decade, it's going to basically just ship by default with a lot of tools. So becoming really good at using any of this AI tooling um, really well and efficiently is going to be it's going to move beyond like prompt engineering, and it's going to be like a basic um work etiquette or skill. So that's why we spent like the first part of this module discussing like prompting and all of that stuff. So the next 10 days it's going to be focused a bit on automation. So how do we go beyond telling ChatGPT to do stuff ourselves to having it do stuff for us behind the scene? We do have uh, one challenge though, and the challenge is that a lot of automation these days require paid plans for both ChatGPT or any AI you use, and even the software themselves. So it was a bit difficult to try and find something that would carry like everyone along. So for some scenarios where you need to do more advanced automation, you might need to do paid plans and for the tooling you would use. For instance, I was really looking forward to creating like a guide for people who do like lots of email marketing. So you can the guide was supposed to be someone wants sorry someone wants like an ad on Instagram, and Instagram gives you like a report every night, and you take that report and you receive emails of people who have seen that ad, and you take that report and you want to create like a summary, a daily summary for yourself, right? So that would have been like a really nice learning plan. But yeah, to be able to do that with like Zapier or like MailChimp, you have to be on like a paid plan, unfortunately. However, we managed to find something that works. So one platform that we'll be using next week is a platform called Make, which is an automation software, an AI automation software, basically. So it transcends beyond AI. Actually, you can create lots of like other automation with it, but it allows us to do build like some AI first or AI native automation. So we'll be using Make a lot in the next in the coming week, basically. You can combine it with some other CRM tools or like workplace tools that you have, like Slack, Salesforce, MailChimp, Jira, and stuff like that, or even Excel or Google Doc. So for people who have been like following the guide religiously, I would say that yeah, next week is going to be like a really interesting one. And if you find yourself blocked in any of the automation, there'll be videos going out early in the week to explain some of these concepts and show like walkthroughs. So if you find yourself blocked, just give a shout. And, we'll be happy to help you.